Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Reviews. Today I'll be talking about Mechstermination Force on the Nintendo Switch. So what is it? Well, it's basically a boss rush game which answers the question, what would happen if we cross Contra with Shadow of the Colossus? The game tasks you with taking down 14 robotic behemoths. You'll have to blast off their armored plating, expose their weak points, and basically scramble up to access those weak points, and then strike them with a sword, usually multiple times, to finally take them down. Between matches, you'll return to a military-style base with a shop where you can buy much-needed additional weapons and hard containers. And there's also a section in the base where you can replay bosses that you've already defeated to save up money so that you can buy those things. You know, and you can try for better scores and that sort of thing that will give you extra money for defeating those bosses again, if that makes sense. So in other words, the better that you refine your skills at a particular boss, the more money you stand to make by replaying them. And, you know, and obviously that's going to help you save up for the weapons. All of the weapons have unlimited ammo once you purchase them, and you can select between them on the fly at any given moment. You don't lose a weapon. If you're killed while you're using it, you have it forever. Which is a good thing because this game is, frankly, I would say incredibly difficult. I did manage to complete it for this review, but that feels like a real accomplishment. This one was pretty tough. You know, as a matter of fact, let me tell you, for many people, this very well may be a rage quitter. Mechstermination Force is frickin' difficult. It was, honestly, I've had it for a pretty long time, and it's been sitting, like, on my back burner, kind of, like I said, for quite a while, as one of those games that I wasn't sure if I'd ever get around to completing, because it's, you know, there's a few games on my Switch that I'm like, I don't know if that's ever gonna happen, and this was one of them. But I gotta tell you, when you take down one of those gigantic bosses, it feels, like I said, it feels like a real accomplishment, possibly with the exception of, you know, 2 or 3 of them that go down relatively easy. But for most of these bosses, you are really gonna have to take some time and learn the patterns, learn how to evade, learn how to lure them into a vulnerable position. Yeah, you have to learn how to succeed at this game. You don't just jump in and win, for sure. Now for the presentation, as you've been able to see while I've been talking, the visuals feature a style that I personally found really clean looking and impressive. The colors are exceptionally vibrant. I particularly like the kind of the trees and just the whole background of your military base. It just really pops and looks great, in my opinion. Also worth mentioning, the animation of both bosses and your main character sprite is incredibly fluid. It's a very, very smooth, buttery, in many ways a very polished looking game, which is impressive because it came from a very small team. The musical score features a pretty heroic theme, and the sound effects feel like they belong to the action on screen, which is the goal. So, great job. Okay, but now on to the control and mechanics. You can shoot in 8 directions, you can jump, you can lock your position while you're firing, you can switch weapons if you have more than one, and eventually you'll gain a double jump and magnetic gloves to climb around on some surfaces, which is absolutely essential to taking down many of the bosses, like most of them. You know, so you'll be climbing around on the bosses, sort of like Shadow of the Colossus, if you happen to be familiar with that game. The control is solid, it's responsive, except for the important fact that your character feels at times a little squirrely, kind of like he's walking on ice or something. And I think that just has to do with certain, like, very specific sort of physics positions that you can find yourself in, like as you're relating to like the angle of the ground and your movement, and if you're jumping and turning and trying to do really precise movements. In certain instances, it can be pretty noticeable. You just feel squirrely. But I was able to adapt to that, but it was certainly quite frustrating at a few points. And I could see where it might even be a deal breaker for some people. I have heard other reviewers say that basically the combat is great, but the platforming is not great. And I can see where they're coming from. But like I said, if you're determined, you can like adapt to that, and it's not all the time. Anyways, look, Mechstermination Force retails on the eShop for $12. Though it goes on some pretty deep sales fairly often. At the time that I wrote this, it was on sale for $7 and change, and I want to say that I might have paid like less than $5 for this game. So the question is it worth it? Like I said, I got it on sale, but I think for me, it would have been worth the full price. Because it's a challenge, but it's honestly a really satisfying challenge, and it's just an all-around cool game. So yeah, I think it's worth the $12. But I know for a fact that this game will not be for everybody, and it may not even be for most. You have to be interested in challenging yourself, because this game will very much do that if you want to see the end of the game. I feel like this is probably not for the casual Contra fan. It's pretty hardcore, no pun intended. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please click like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time whenever that may be. Bye-bye.